Startup Awards 2023. Well, my name is Shikha Arora and I am your host for the day, and I welcome all of you officially to this one of its kind International Startup Awards and Summit 2023. Can we have a round of applause for all of us gathered here today? It's a wonderful, wonderful morning. And let's talk about what the summit is all about. So, International Startup Awards and Summit is an annual international event organized by International Brand Equity, where we recognize and celebrate the achievements of startups from around the world. That means a lot of you who are sitting here with us, it is the day when we recognize and celebrate your achievements. Can we please have a round of applause for all of you whom we are recognizing and celebrating today? Talking of International Brand Equity, also known as IBE, it is a leading marketing and business magazine and publisher of the highly influential annual Best Brands reports like Consumer Choice Awards. A fully autonomous business magazine, IBE represents an astute source of information from across industries, and the firm is well known for organizing business awards, conferences, workshops, as well as seminars. Today, the International Startup Awards are covering a wide range of categories, including fintech, healthcare, education, social impact, and sustainability. Each category is judged by a panel of industry experts and investors who evaluate the startups based on their innovation, market potential, as well as the impact. Now, before we move forward with the next segment, with the first segment, in fact, why not we start today's summit with something very auspicious? That is a lamp lighting. Vakratund Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Dev Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. With this, may I request our dignitaries to please step forward and help us with the lamp lighting. May I request first of all Mr. Ashwinder R. Singh to please join us on the stage for lamp lighting. Along with that, Miss Antara Bhargava. Can we have a round of applause for our dignitaries? Mr. Pankaj Jain, Mr. Ankit Machar, and Mr. Rajagopal Menon. Please, I request all of you to please join us and help us with the lamp lighting. We are grateful for all of you being present here today with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a big moment for International Startup Summit and Awards 2023, where all of our dignitaries are coming together and lighting this lamp, which is going to take away all the darkness from our lives and our workplaces. Let's have a round of applause as the lamp lighting has been started, initiated by Miss Antara Bhargav, followed by Mr. Ashwinder R. Singh. Can we have a round of applause for all of our dignitaries? शरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, a huge round of applause for our dignitaries. Thank you very much for stepping forward and helping us with the process of lamp lighting. Thank you. I request the dignitaries to please step forward for a photograph next to the lamp. I think this moment also calls for a round of applause as our dignitaries and their beautiful smiles are getting captured. Thank you very much to all our dignitaries. Please have your seats as we start with the first segment. Now, diving into the first segment, I have the keynote address at this Startup Awards in Summit 2023, and that is coming for all of you from a seasoned real estate executive who holds a proud 25 plus years of experience. He has held CEO roles in firms like JLL Residential and Bhartiya Urban. He is someone who has co-founded Anarok, India's premier residential real estate services group. He's also an author of Amazon best-selling books, A to Z of Residential Real Estate and Master Residential Real Estate. Not to forget, he is a winner of many awards like Thought Leader of the Year, Real Estate Person of the Year South, just to name a few. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we call onto the stage the co-chairman of CII, Mr. Ashwinder R. Singh, to give us a keynote on the startups funding and innovation. I request you all to please give a louder round of applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be standing before you and speaking about startups. Actually, I was just thinking when I was coming on my way, I'm not going to share certain things that all of us don't know about. But I said, okay, what is it that I start with? And I just thought about it, that Indian sports, maybe a decade back or a couple of decades back, I don't think it was even a startup. A decade back, it became a startup. Looks like this Asiad, this Asian Games, the Indian sports has become a unicorn. A big round of applause for our athletes who've really done us proud. We should get 100 medals. We are at 21 gold, which is the highest ever. The highest earlier was 16. So, see, India is a land where wisdom, ancient wisdom, modern innovation has always been there. The country is really going through a great phase. And India is surely a global hub of innovation. And within India, Bangalore leads it as a global hub of innovation. What I'm going to try and discuss is some of the perspectives in terms of what can startups do. As I said, they are not new, maybe from my lens, and how startups can have a more propensity to be more successful and, if I may use the word, more profitable. I spent around 10, 12 years of my initial career working with Citibank and 3-4 years with Government of Singapore, Temasek. And there was a lot of focus which was always there on profitability. And, but it is also about purpose. So, you know, please let me know how long I have to talk, but I will not take more than 20 minutes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So the first thing is, what is the power of a purpose-driven startup? Now, every startup has a purpose, but unfortunately, the purpose cannot be profit only, but it has to be a profit that really comes from a purpose, because when there is a purpose, your passion to deliver becomes very high. And there is a very profound impact that purpose has on it. You know, according to a survey by Nielsen, it has been seen that 66% of consumers are willing to pay more for a product which is more sustainable. Now, let me give you an example. You know, we've all heard of a company called Tom's, which makes shoes. It's a very successful startup. And you would be surprised to know that every shoe that you buy or an eyewear that you buy, they gift one shoe or an eyewear to somebody who's needy. And that is the basis on which Tom's created a community. Now, you know, gifting a shoe because you're manufacturing it is not a big deal. But when you start selling shoes in lakhs, hundreds, thousands, and lakhs, and you start gifting it to people, you are creating a community. And the people who are also wearing it are wearing it with so much of pride that they become your brand ambassadors. Now, this is something what purpose is all about. Purpose is not about, talking about lofty things. It is about something that can be executed. The problem is that when we start talking about things like purpose and all, they remain in these conferences only, and when we go out, we get busy in certain things. But if we kind of integrate our purpose in a way that it becomes a part of life, there is tremendous success that comes through it. So that is my one perspective that I wanted to share. The second perspective that I've seen is that vulnerability is a very important aspect of a successful entrepreneur. Now, vulnerability again is a very lofty word. So let me simplify things for all you great entrepreneurs who are here. Vulnerability is nothing but it is about being authentic. It is about a journey from challenges to triumph. It is about also being compliant. Now, as a banker, we used to do a lot of compliance, and I was not one of the smartest bankers. That is why maybe I moved out of banking and came into real estate. And the competition in real estate from talent was less. So maybe that is why I did well, or so-called well. Otherwise, I don't think I would have been a CEO of a HDFC Bank because there's a big line there. The most important thing is risk management, and the other important thing when you say you have to be vulnerable is you need to be compliant. And compliance for all of you, let me tell you, is nothing but full disclosure. When you are in doubt, you need to shout. When you make a mistake, you need to disclose. Because you'll be surprised when you start disclosing the amount of support you get, not just from regulators, but for your team members, from your community, is fantastic, and people are eager to help you. So always disclose, and if you can disclose, you are compliant. And if you can, I'm going to talk about ethics a little more, but this is something that is very important, that let your vulnerability come out. I'll give you an example of vulnerability. There is a startup in the US called Buffers. The company, and all of you should check out, the company openly shares what are their reasons for being successful, what are the current challenges they are going through, and they keep on reinforcing the culture and the bedrock of trust that they have created. So they don't worry about what competition is going to think about them. They openly come out, they say, these are the challenges we are facing, these are the things we are doing well, and this is the reason why we are doing well. So please look out for this company called Buffers, because it exemplifies how you can use vulnerability to your advantage. And when you are vulnerable and when you start accepting your weaknesses in front of a larger audience, you actually become stronger, because you have the courage to say that, look, this is where I'm weak and this is where I need help. And when you start asking for help, you start doing well and you become profitable. Next, please. Okay, I want to talk about inclusivity. Thankfully, I'm seeing a lot of women here. If not a lot, at least 30% women. Men have a particular way of thinking and women have a particular way of thinking, and most of us are married, so I don't have to give more proofs about the way we think differently. But once you start complementing each other, once you have a team which is very balanced, you have the ability to get diverse ideas. Mostly men have a left brain, they are more aggressive, mostly. And women have a right brain, they have a lot of empathy because they are mothers, they are, which is the most important role that God has given to anybody. And when the left brain and the right brain kind of combines, there's a lot of balance that comes into it. And that is where you foster an environment where you can creatively solve problems. One is that you are in a startup because you are solving a problem, but that is a very cliched thing. That is what private equities want, that is what VCs want. and it is becoming quite stupid as far as I am concerned, that what is the problem you are trying to solve? Because now, they are running like machines. The new private equity guy is getting trained by the old private equity guy, and there is a template for everything. Unfortunately, people who follow template mostly fail, because template kind of curbs your productivity. And that is why it is very important to have a very inclusive and a balanced team. There is a study by McKinsey which says that if you have a gender diverse team, your profitability goes up by 20 to 21%. And it is McKinsey because it is quite data driven. And let me give you an example of a company which is called Canva. How many people are aware of Canva? Everyone uses it. And it is the most gender diverse company based out of Australia. And the success of Canva is as much as the success of Zomato in India, because you cannot operate today without Canva. I think this is also made on Canva. The presentation that I'm trying to show you is also made on Canva. And so very important that we shatter this perspective that either we are hiring a male or a female. Let's look at hiring talent. Let's look at hiring diverse talent. Let me tell you, my program office is run by a lady called Vinita. She's just joined me. She's a dentist, she's a doctor. Passed out in 2016. My earlier two EAs were from IIMS, because I have this fetish of working with IIMS because I didn't go to IIMS. So I generally keep them with me. And so Vinita became a dentist in 2016. She started working as a doctor, but for a pharmaceutical company, and she figured out that, okay, I think I should do an MBA. She did her MBA from Narsi Monjee, and this is her first job. And the kind of value I see somebody can bring with such a diverse perspective is that it gets me an opportunity to learn. So diversity is about working with specially challenged people, working with people who are passionate. It is not just about gender diversity, but it is very important that all of you entrepreneurs who are so courageous and have become entrepreneurs, when you are looking at talent, also look at that your meeting rooms are very diverse. It will definitely bring you a lot of success, and Canva is one of the examples because they focused on diversity when they were hiring. Next slide, please. Very common. We all know, we all read the most overstated word, resilience. Some people talk about tenacity. Now, it is the cornerstone for any startup to be successful. Now, resilience is nothing but your ability to stand up, your ability to adapt, your ability to innovate. Innovate is also called jugaad. Indians have been innovating for their life, but the world calls it innovation. So we just have to kind of follow our natural instincts, never give up, and the ability to thrive in adversity. And if there is anybody who can thrive in adversity, is the Indian middle class, which is now moving from middle class to upper middle class to rich to ultra rich. So the only thing that you need to remember to become resilient is the things that our parents told us when they were bringing us up. Work hard, have the right habits, don't give up. And I don't want to talk about this thing called self-love because it is quite overrated. I think it is important to love your family and others rather than keep on loving yourself, because I think it is a very defeatist way of kind of saying that now because nobody loves me, I am loving myself. So I think be resilient, have a great culture around you, and have a team who doesn't let you take a fall. And for that, it is very important that you have a very genuine relationship with your team members, you hire correctly, and you decide that you will not give up till the time you're going to be successful. An example is there is a company in the US called Slack. They started as a gaming company, and today they are a communication company because gaming was going through a big challenge. And today they are a communication and a collaborating platform, and they are one of the most successful startups in the communication and collaborating platform. So there have been people who have been resilient, but they have practically shown how being resilient can help. That is why these are not theoretical things I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell something that maybe if you can pick up one leaf from what I'm trying to say and implement it and focus on execution, because execution of these lofty ideas makes them practical. And it will certainly help you a lot. Something very important, I couldn't have missed it. I wanted to be different, but resilience was something that should have come. This is something that I want to really share, which is the building a collaborative startup ecosystem. Now, what I mean by collaborative startup ecosystem is not collaboration amongst teams. It is about collaborating amongst startups. Now, this is a platform where there are multiple startups who are there. Now, the best way to make a startup successful is to start working with another startup, because the DNA is the same. And the other startup started working with another startup, and you create a chain reaction. Once you create a chain reaction, you start giving business to each other. You start empathizing with each other. You start supporting each other. And when the ecosystem starts doing well, you start doing well. As they say, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. So if you hang around with successful people, you are successful. If you hang around with positive people, you are positive, and vice versa. So once we understand, especially in Bangalore and in India, and after COVID, the way things have been moving virtually, we start collaborating among startup, and we first figure out, is there an option to work with a startup? And we reach out to them and start working, you will realize the success parameters, the productivity, the overall environment will become so conducive, and you guys will suddenly start delivering on your KPIs. You know, a report by Genome emphasizes that a strong startup ecosystem gives you a 30% head start, and that is what the Valley is all about. That is what Palo Alto is all about, because that ecosystem is all about startups. And there is a company called Stripe in USA, which is a prime example. It is a payment processing platform which only collaborates with startups. And it has become a unicorn, a sustainably profitable company, and something which many other startups in the payment space want to do. So they decided they will work with other startups, and the moment you start giving work to another startup, they start becoming your brand ambassadors. And that is what I keep on saying, that if you have the ability to generate PR and build a brand without doing a press release, you are going to be successful. So Stripe is a good example which you people should study, that how collaboration within startups can really help. Mental health and entrepreneurship, please don't be very tough on yourself. You people are very strong. I am not strong, that is why I'm still an employee. I'm a reluctant entrepreneur, though I've done a couple of entrepreneurial things. As they said, Anurag is one of the most successful real estate startups in India today, 5 years. I was the co-founder and the first CEO of Anurag. We converted JLL Residential when I was the CEO of JLL Residential into Anurag. And after that, I moved back into Bajaj Housing Finance as the group head for retail mortgages and wholesale lending. So most of the developers here I've funded. I realized that mental health is about not overthinking, not putting too much of pressure on you, because finally, let me get a little philosophical. Most of the success that I got, or the so-called success that I got, I was not expecting it. And when I was expecting that success, I did not get it. By the end of the day, there are a lot of other forces that are at play. So it is very important that the pressure on you should be on inputs and not on outputs, because inputs are in our control. So whether it is the process, whether it is the right hiring, whether it is the right compliance, whether it is the right product, whether it is the right unique selling proposition that you want to create, whether it is the sales process that you want to follow, focus on inputs, because inputs give you outputs. Because the problem is that most of the startups, 9 out of 10 startups in India fail because they keep on focusing on the output. And when they keep on looking at the output, which is in not line with the expectations, they get stressed, they get depressed, they start comparing, They start expecting, they don't get the things that they were expecting. Therefore, it is very important to relax. There are a lot of people in this world who are not CEOs. And there are a lot of people in this world who are CEOs who are highly depressed. So, the wearer of the shoe knows where it is pinching. Just because I'm standing on the podium and many people would be thinking, wow, I'm also going to be standing sometime and talking. It doesn't mean I'm the happiest man or the most successful man in this bunch of people. And just because you are standing there, and just because Vinita is starting her career in 2023, does not mean she's not successful, because it is a mindset. And the mindset decides what you are going to be. Because we need to understand and appreciate. There is a syndrome called the missing tile syndrome. I don't know how many of you have heard it. So if there was a gentleman who went to a pool, a beautiful pool, very expensive pool, blue tiles, fantastic, Fairmont Hotel, Dubai, he's looking at the pool and suddenly he sees one tile which is missing. And he's only looking at that missing tile then. He's forgotten about the pool, he's forgotten about the ambience, and he's just saying, yeah, why is that tile missing? Because we as individuals and humans have the habit of focusing on what we don't have. We do not have the habit on appreciating what we have, which starts with good health, great family to support, good friends, and having an opportunity to become an entrepreneur and be here to take an award. Because right now, most of these startup entrepreneurs must be thinking, why am I not a Flipkart, or why am I not a Amazon, so on and so forth. Well, that is destiny. And that is a casino, right? So we should avoid this missing tile syndrome and focus on our mental health, learn to stay happy. And even if it means that, looking at Instagram reels make you happy, look at them. Rather than saying, why do people look at so many Instagram reels? Boss, people look at Instagram reels, what is your problem? Maybe that is what they like. But half of the parents of my generation, the biggest problem they have is their kids have the phone all the time. Boss, you didn't have a phone because that time there was no phone. Maybe you would also be fiddling with that phone. And let us not become the architects of our children's destiny. Right? They are far more smarter. And that is where it becomes extremely important that we focus on mental health. And there is a startup on mental health, which is Headspace, which did so well. And most of the clients of Headspace, you'll be surprised 50% of them are employees who work in startups. So very important that we focus on our mental health. Ethical leadership in startup is very important. I will simplify this conversation of ethical leadership. As I said, I'm going to talk about it. Being ethical means being authentic, being yourself, and it also means that the moment you're authentic, you start attracting like-minded investors. You start attracting those investors who can add value other than the money. So being ethical also means, as I said, I will repeat, I would want everybody to write it down, full disclosure. Anything that goes wrong has to be disclosed, because the moment you disclose, the entire machinery in the world, government, regulators, your own team members will come to the founders and say, sir, is this the problem? We are going to solve it. Don't worry about it. So ethics is all about full disclosure, and Fairphone is a company from Netherlands. And how did they kind of focused on ethics? They are a beacon of ethical leadership, because they only source, and very ethically, only sustainable parts that make their phone. And they are doing very well, and they are a niche. Many people might not know what Fairphone is, but Fairphone is very successful and very profitable. So very important that we focus on ethics, and we focus on full disclosure. The role of storytelling. Storytelling is nothing but engaging. Now, we've been talking about storytelling for the last 10 years. It just means having a conversational approach, whether it is with your team, whether it is with your investors, whether it is with your stakeholders. I wanted to write a lot, whether it is, you're talking about anything. Storytelling is nothing but having a conversation, having an engaging conversation, having an emotional conversation. And let's also feel very proud that we are quite emotional people. because the bond that is tied with emotions is the strongest bond. Now, there are a lot of things that we see. We see a lot of Netflix, we see a lot of Hotstar. I'm looking at a web series, Billions, which has really kind of motivated me a lot. But Billions is not about storytelling. Billions is not about emotional bonds. And finally, it is very important that we don't have a heart attack at 45 or 50, that we have an approach which is engaging. We have an approach where people can come and give us feedback. Storytelling is not a one-way traffic. It is also creating an environment where we get feedback to go forward. The founders, you people, whether you're young or not, have the ability to take feedback, because the moment you start taking feedback from your team develops an ownership mindset. And then they don't want the founder to fail, because it is no more a game of a founder. It is about us as a team. And that is why anything that we do, and statistics says that any advertisement which is bound by storytelling has 100% more impact. And there is a company called Warby Parker. I did some research in the morning, which masterfully utilizes storytelling. Please look at Warby Parker. It is again a US-based company which supplies glasses to those in need, eyewear to those in need. It's an affordable eyewear company, and the entire process is of storytelling. So storytelling is about engaging, not being hard-nosed, talking the way we talk to friends, talking the way when we are having a cup of coffee. Why should we change when we come on a dais? Why should we change when we are having a meeting? Why should we change when we are on the head of the table and having a meeting? What is it that we are trying to prove? We are trying to prove nothing, but we are trying to fail ourselves, because the environment is changing. The world is changing. The Gen Z thinks completely differently. Your consumers are Gen Z. Millennials are now 30, 35. So the only way to be successful is to engage and communicate very well through a storytelling way. Sustainable startups I've spoken about. I'm going to skip about it, but it is very important to understand that there is a company called Beyond Meat in, again, the US, which makes meat out of vegetarian stuff, and they don't have to slaughter a cow, or they don't have to slaughter a goat. And what a way, just for our taste buds, we kind of kill so many people. I'm also a non-vegetarian, so I'm not here to give some high-end gyan, but this company has really done well. Please look into this company and see how things work. Last but not the least, remote work is going to stay. This is one idea I want to leave behind you. This is one area where there is going to be a huge, huge, huge growth. All the co-working spaces are doing extremely well. And you know that there is a company called GitLab in the US. GitLab is a software company where 100% of their employees work from home, and they are doing extremely well. And a survey from Gartner clearly says that 82% of company leaders, Fortune 500 company leaders, plan to allow their employees to work from home sometime or the other. It is extremely an important area where a lot of entrepreneurs can look into, and things are really, catching up. Last but not the least, I think I'm done with it. I would only like to say that 2-3 things which are very close to my heart: embrace vulnerability, embrace inclusivity, and stay resilient in the face of adversity. The odyssey of entrepreneurs from dreaming to executing continues. So you're all the dreamers, and you are the doers, and you are the captain of your voyage. Let your startup be the flag bearer of change, impacting not just your lives, but the lives of everybody around you. Keep dreaming, keep innovating, and may your travels and odysseys be nothing short of legendary. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful, innovative session, Mr. Ashwinder R. Singh. Can we have a round of applause for him? And I would request the business head of IBE, Mr. Kumar Saurabh, to please step forward and felicitate our keynote speaker, Mr. Ashwinder R. Singh. And with this, it's time. May I also call your attention to a very famous and important personality who has just joined us. Please put your hands together as we have the chairman of MSME Promotion Council India, Mr. Dr. E. Muthuraman, with us. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today. It's a great honor for everyone here at the International Startup Awards 2023. With this, let's move to the next segment, and it's time that we fire up the conversations with some feisty fireside chat on empowering startups with government support and policy, a very exciting topic. And we have our renowned panelists for the day, where the first panelist is somebody who has over 11 years of experience in creating and leading programs, partnership, and platforms that support and enable entrepreneurs to create high potential startups. He is the director of ecosystem at Wadhwani Foundation, a global non-profit organization that accelerates economic development through entrepreneurship and innovation. Please put your hands together and help me welcome on the stage Director of Ecosystem Wadhwani Foundation, Mr. Ankit Machar. Thank you very much, Mr. Ankit, for joining us. Please have a seat. Our next panelist is a versatile professional, proficient in special situation deals, priority capital raise, fast-track M&A, and performing discrete international searches. He is also a part of BFSI and GTM initiatives. Please put your hands together and help me welcome on the stage the Director, Risk Advisory, PwC, Mr. Pankaj Jain. Thank you, Mr. Pankaj, for joining us today. Our next panelist is a growth leader and a startup consultant who has honors graduate of law from Trinity College and is a qualified CA. With 15 plus years of experience in various strategic roles, she is also a founder of Wow Kitty model, which brings together women of substance who support rural female entrepreneurs. Please put your hands together for Miss Antara Bhargava. And to moderate this panel, may I introduce our panel moderator to all of you, who is a multifaceted professional with a proven track record in diverse industries with over 25 plus years of experience across IT, healthcare, and coaching. Please put your hands together for Miss Kavita Garla. The topic of discussion is empowering startups with government support and policy. We may also have a short Q&A session given the time. Kavita, over to you, Kavita. Can we have a round of applause once again for our panelists and moderators and give them a great start? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shika. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. I don't know about all of you, but I think Mr. Ashwinder really gave us a good start. It was a very motivating talk. I don't see him here. I think he's left. I would still like to have a panel discussion with him on self-love. I'm a believer in that. So anyway, so now we have this esteemed panel. What I would request all of you is to wake up and listen to our panel. Everyone is coming from different corners of Bangalore, and you know how difficult it is to get here. So first of all, let's up the energy with a huge round of applause, not just for them, but for all of you for being here today. So again, a warm welcome to this day, the International Startup Awards and Summit 2023. And we have gathered here in the heart of India's thriving startup ecosystem, Bangalore, to explore a pivotal aspect of the entrepreneur landscape, empowering startups with government policy, support and policy. As all of you know, in the last decade, India has emerged as a global hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. The journey from Startup India to Atmanirbhar Bharat has been nothing short of remarkable. Government policies and support have played a pivotal role in nurturing this vibrant startup ecosystem. Today, we are honored to have these panelists who are going to talk about policies that impact startups from the ground up, what more can be done to empower emerging businesses, and how can startups leverage government schemes to scale up their ventures. So are you all ready for the first question? Yes? Okay. What key government policies do you believe have contributed significantly to the growth of India's startup ecosystem? And how have startups benefited from them? Who wants to go first? Pankaj, you're the favorite for this.
Uh, the startup initiative was launched in 2016, 7 years. I think we've had some remarkable success stories. If you ask me, there were about 100 plus unicorns, formed. About 85 still exist. A few merged, a few have downvalued, etc. Uh, funding in terms of number of startups that have been incubated in the Indian economy. We are the third largest in the world, 85,000 startups. I was there last week for the GFF in Bombay, the Global FinTech Festival. We had about 45,000 visitors, 4,000 plus fintechs, present there. So have we sort of made significant progress? Answer is yes. What have been some of these initiatives? There has been this grant scheme, 50 lakhs to start with. There are about 200 plus accelerators now. Back in 2008-9, there was only one or two angel funds that I knew of, maybe Mumbai Angels, Indian Angel Network, and now I think there are a good about 30 plus angel funds in the country. So is the ecosystem getting deeper? Absolutely, yes. Are we anywhere, could we do better? Are we there, at par with the valley, or are we making strides in a lot of areas? I would say yes. Our ecosystem, our geographical dynamics are different. We are still a country where about 45% is below the poverty line. So we are mindful of a few of these dynamics as well. And whilst it's easy to say, the US ecosystem or the Brazilian ecosystem is significantly more empowering. But are we doing our bits? Yes. Have in the last 5-7 years, we've seen remarkable progress at the grassroots. I was in IIT Chennai last Wednesday, so Aether Energy was a large success story in the campus, and there's about 400 plus companies incubated there. NSRCL in Bangalore, I can talk about various other universities which have their incubation labs and centers. So are the grassroots movements there? Pretty much, yes. Is the ecosystem conducive? Yes. Is the, mood and optimism with the thrust of the government? I would say yes. The, positive factors are there, and we need to just accelerate this.
Thank you, sir. Ankit, you would like to add anything to this?
Yeah, sure. So just to add to what Pankaj said, of course, Startup India played a major role. Were we having startups before that? Absolutely. The Department of Science and Technology, if you look at, they started funding on the technology innovation startups way back, 20 years back, through DST, TBI centers across India. But of course, Startup India gave a super momentum to the entire efforts. And today, if I look at any of the government departments, each of them has kind of created their innovation cells inside, be it agri, be it railways, be it MSME, be it industries, be it finance. All of them, through different modes, are looking for innovative solutions. So that's one way that we're seeing government has kindly supported so many innovations across country through various schemes, all led by under Startup India. So that's just another aspect that I want.
Right, so I'm not going to disagree with anybody here, but what I will do is I will set context. I think as a country, we are entrepreneurial. We don't give ourselves credit for the kind of businesses we have built. A lot of the great companies that exist, highly profitable companies that are family-owned, come from family businesses, and that business mindset has been around for generations. And we have a different impetus now, a different story to be told, because what we are doing with government support and with globalization, with technology, is we're democratizing the business mindset, the business understanding, and the access to capital and talent. That's what we are doing. And government is certainly playing a role in terms of structuring access. That's their job, and that's what they're doing. But as a country, we have been entrepreneurial. I think Mr. Singh said many great things in his speech, and I really don't want him to leave without us talking to us. But one of the things he mentioned is innovation that we talk as a buzzword is jugaad. We created it. So we've been around, and there's a saying that, I've lived and worked around the world, that if you can make a business work in India, you can take it anywhere. So learn how to work with the complexity, the nuances, the challenges of our country, and you will have a scalable model. So be proud of the fact that we come from a country that has invested for generations in education, in business mindsets, and has provided that support as a family to people outside of typical business class communities. But today, to democratize that, we definitely need more government support.
I think the answers were fantastic. Applause, maybe? Thank you. Like they say in Bangalore, right? Solpa adjust madi. I think we really are the champions of that. So, like you said, jugaad. Of course, when there is policies and funding, all this involved, there are going to be challenges. So what, in your experience, what are the most common challenges that startups face when trying to leverage government schemes and policies for their growth? And how can these challenges be addressed? If you have, faced these challenges and figured out a way to address them, I think it would help many young startups sitting here today in the audience to learn from your mistakes or your lessons.
So I'll go from an angle where, so as a foundation, we work with large number of early stage startups, and one of our outcome through the program that we do, which is Liftoff, is primarily helping early stage, the prototype MVP stage startups to be able to get government grants, which is like 25 plus active government grants that are available in different sectors and stages. We keep hearing a lot of challenges. So one, like for example, if you look at the entire Startup India movement, as Pankaj said, 7 years. It's still at the nascent stages of deploying, implementing the entire, in a country which is 140 billion size, 1.4 billion size, right? You have 65% of your population which is under 35 years of age trying to innovate out. We still are building infrastructures on how do we incorporate this at a massive scale. The consumption level itself in India is huge. How do you implement that at scale? That's what is happening currently. There are challenges. From a startup angle, if I go and apply, the entire process takes 3 to 6 months. By the time I may even shut my shop and go back. That's just because of the process that they're trying to build, so that there is integrity, there is a process laid out in giving the public money to a startup, and that's the entire process of that is taking a little longer cycle. So that's one challenge, a major challenge that we see, even if it is a 3 lakh, 5 lakh amount or it is a 50 lakh amount, the entire process usually takes. Second, with the Startup India definition also, like it's a slightly broader. People get DPIIT registration, but then when they start applying, the mandate of each of these grants of the government schemes has different sub-criterias. And startups apply without knowing and reading all those sub-criterias and thinking I'm a startup recognized, but I'm not getting that grant. So there's that lack of knowledge and understanding which is the right scheme that applies to my startup in my sector, in the area that I'm working, and what are the nuances that I need in my startup. For example, I'm looking for 75 lakhs, but I'm applying for a 5 lakh grant. Doesn't make. Similarly, I'm at an idea stage, but I'm applying for a 50 lakh grant. Again, a mismatch. And then the other nuances. Just so that's another challenge that we keep hearing. Startups coming and we have applied here and there and everywhere. They're not responding. Where are we going wrong? I said these could be some reasons, but there could be different other. So that, and then third, of course, knowing each scheme, which to apply, when to apply, and then effectively on timely basis. You are 5 years in the journey, the scheme is only for up to 2 years of a startup. Definitely you are not a match. And then those creates friction between the startups and all that. So those are three top challenges that we keep hearing every now and then, and we're trying to solve that through our interventions.
Do you offer mentoring or
Yes. So
like,
as
people want to come to you from the audience today and ask you?
Yeah, so as a foundation, it's a program that we run. It's a 3-month program for prototype stage startups, MVP stage startup, committed full-time members, founders, looking to go to the next level. How do you do? So one, of course, so a little context here. We're not saying you work on for the grants. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be starting a venture because there are grants available. You should be doing this because you're passionate. What Mr. Singh said in his, you're resilient and okay to kind of do this. You're trying to create a value, and in the process, if you are able to come out with a technology product or service that solves a problem, you will get a grant from some of the other schemes.
Thank you so much for the answer. I think people are about to clap. Please go ahead and clap. Thank you. Yes, yes, of course.
So I think just to add to what Ankit said, there are layers to the problem, right? And let's accept that doesn't matter what government is in power, whether at the center or at a state level, they have to deal with 1.4 billion people. It's a very complex situation. So there are layers to the problem. One is a standard statement. Our gap between strategy and execution in the country is always very big, right? So how do you bridge that? I'm going to again refer to Mr. Singh, storytelling. And we have a pretty decent government storytelling mechanism, right? However, the challenge with something so complex in the startup ecosystem and providing them guidance is, number one, the people who are starting have not done it before. 99.99% have not done it before. They don't even understand the words, the jargon. So my recommendation to government, to policymakers is simplify, 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 and handhold the people through the process. And you can use digitization for a lot of this, at least for filtering level 1, right? The second is vernacular. I think we often forget that not everybody is English speaking, not everybody is Hindi speaking, not everybody is even Kannada speaking. You know, we come in a country where you have 40 odd official languages, 200 odd, nuances there. You got to be able to simplify it down so that if you truly want to democratize, the language you're speaking is the language of the guy that has the brilliant idea, because we are missing out a lot there. So increasing accessibility by simplifying the procedures, digitizing, and then using of vernacular is one solution that I believe would truly help, particularly because I also work through my NGO with rural women entrepreneurs, and getting them from an idea to an execution stage is done by grassroots level NGOs who we fund, right? And the kind of challenges they see are the challenges of democratizing startups. You guys in this audience that we are speaking to have the benefit and the privilege of education, of an urban lifestyle. Your challenges are different, but even then, understanding the language of the investment world is something other than probably Pankaj, we're still learning, right? It doesn't matter whether I've had 20 years in this world or not. So simplification is very important, and it will also help the government, because after you've given the grant, you want that particular company to be successful, right? For them to be successful, they have to get the next round of funding or the next round of growth. For them to get that, whatever they've done in round 1 has to be able to get a result, but the story has to be tellable. And the private ecosystem of finance is very different from the public ecosystem of finance. So what story you'll tell to get a public grant is very different from you to get your seed funding or your series funding or your angel funding. So bridging that understanding also, I mean, whatever I've heard about the Vadhwani Foundation and the work they're doing is just brilliant, and the kind of scale they're achieving. But we need that from, the public. ecosystem. Because unless they explain it, the masses won't understand. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on, what Antara has said, there's a couple of these structural problems which not only apply to startups and MSMEs, but to industry at large. Like, back in the days when GST and VAT was not there, you had central sale tax and local tax, and exporters would complain that on exports there was a rebate of the tax refund, and that would take a long time to get credited. So you still find the same issue now with GST refunds, etc. Manufacturing units that come up, investments in plant and machinery, subsidies are accorded in line with the investment regime, in line with the stated investments. But those subsidies take, significantly longer to get realized, and at times the viability of the businesses get impacted. IP laws is also another, trademark registration, patent protection. I mean, whilst we are building up our framework on that, India is still not there. And a lot of the technology startups and businesses as a result get incorporated in Singapore, or the holdco is registered there just because the laws are simpler over there. And I think Mr. Singh would agree with me that, this is an area that still needs some work to be done. So we've had these issues, and whilst we are working, these apply to large businesses as well, and we would need to live with them and, work our way. So, yeah.
I think all of you are successful. Yes. Sir, you like the answer a lot. So I think it's important for all of you sitting here to become the change that we want to see, and helping people, becoming mentors, I would say, to the different parts of the city, especially the grassroots level, right? They need your assistance more than ever. So I just wanted to step back a little, and COVID-19, we don't talk about it much anymore, but it was there. And the COVID-19 pandemic posed unique challenges to businesses and startups. My question is, how did the government initiative support startups during this time? And the reason I'm asking is, what lessons can be drawn from this in terms of future crisis? I would hand over to you, Andra. I know you like this question.
I intensely dislike this question because I was leading a healthcare startup during COVID, and a healthcare services startup, which means I had the most vulnerable patients in my charge. I had about 85 of them at the end of March 2020 when the first lockdown hit. And these were all immunocompromised patients, geriatric patients, patients on tracheostomy tubes who could not walk, who could not be sent home to recover. And it was very sudden lockdown, as you all know. We did not have time to prepare. So, and actually, the one thing I'm most proud of my 20 plus years career is that not a single patient of ours in the entire journey of COVID got COVID. So that was like, God's luck and everything else. But what I learned, and I'll be very specific to this, is three areas I'll touch upon. And I'm not going to touch on anything controversial, even though you want me to. Number one, the word Atmanirbhar means do it yourself. DIY. Take care of your own circle. Don't rely on someone else. Okay? We had to do that. It was a no option situation, right? We had to shut our doors and we had to take care of our own people. We were one of the people that had oxygen concentrators because of the kind of business that we were in. And we had people showing up in taxis on our doorstep with COVID demanding the concentrators, right? That was an unmanageable, unfathomable situation. We were making decisions on life and death every single day. I got afraid to go to the toilet because 23 calls that I received in the second wave, all 23 people died, right? And that's the situation we in private healthcare dealt with, and public healthcare as well. So The first is DIY. The second is when it came to the government support or the public healthcare system support, I'm not going to talk about individual politicians. That's not I'm nowhere connected to them. But on the ground, the government doctors, the nurses' aides, the PHCs, they were superb. The way people in this country pulled together in crisis, you don't need structure, policy, strategy. Let me tell you, we are a family. Indians took care of Indians in a way that you would not believe. To me, every doctor is a soldier. Every nurse was a soldier, right? We always say Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. I was like Jai Chikitsak. I don't know if anybody understood my Hindi there. But that's how I felt, because I'm not a doctor. I was an administrator. I had the option of going into work every day or not. Not one of my staff had that option. So let us be, I think the message there, let's be very confident in the quality of relationships we have with each other as human beings first in this country. And the third, in terms of learning, right? What are our learnings? 3 key learnings for healthcare. Number one, and I don't know if they'll ever be implemented, but this is my request. Number one, let's be prepared for the next crisis, right? We can't be caught like we were. We know that we have a massive infra gap, a talent gap, an execution gap. That needs to be fixed. No more excuses. It just needs to be fixed, right? And take whatever public-private partnership, collab, whatever you want to do and fix it, right? The second is we need to have a system of monitoring the execution of some of these policies with better transparency. Because sometimes things get done. The government did implement certain solutions, but nobody who was working knew about them, right? So the communication down to last mile is very, very important, and we need to figure out what that is. It's not me as just the administrator. It's the nursing aide who needs to know how to wash his hands. It's that nursing aide who needs to know how to take a wheelchair patient out, right? It's the ambulance driver, he needs to know how he treats a COVID patient versus a non-COVID patient. Because if the infection starts there, nothing I can do in the hospital, right? So last mile communication. And the third key learning for, I think, everybody is we need to find a way to treat healthcare when we are not building public healthcare infra, we are creating schemes. We need to treat private healthcare as an extension of public infra. So one point that Pankaj brought up on GST, and I come from a training of 15 plus years in Europe. GST is based on the European VAT system, right? And that's based on the concept of whether something is a public service or not. And public service should be GST 0 rated, like exports, not GST exempt. Because that means if there's an exemption, all our costs, GST we absorb. When we absorb GST, we will charge that price at a higher cost. If you give me GST 0 rating, I can reduce my pricing. And this is something that's been spoken about by some politicians. It's not been implemented yet. But I'd like everybody to be aware of the difference between GST exemption and GST 0 rating. It's a simple Google search. And that could make a colossal difference. You're talking 15 to 20% pricing difference for healthcare. And I'll stop there for COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great answer and a lot of passion in what you're saying. So I think you should take it up as something that you would help us. Hopefully we won't have another crisis, but if we do, it's people like you who can guide us, I feel. So take it up, Antra. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Antra. I mean, being so closely glued to the healthcare industry, you felt the pulse of it when, we were hit. Someone like me who's been more on the industry and financial side, I mean, there were the usual SOPs announced by the government, interest, holidays, moratoriums for 6 months, and then for performing businesses which were not NPAs, not defaulters, you had a 20% increase in working capital and funding lines, etc. Did they help? Maybe for a few months they gave you some respite, breathing time, etc. But every adversity brings out an opportunity, and COVID was no different. So, roll on a year, 2021, people in the technology space, be it digital, anything, anyone who was working online, video streaming, etc. A lot of these businesses had their best years ever, and most of them ushered tremendous growth. And you also saw a whole host of new work options come by: hybrid, flexi, work from home, etc. So, I mean, uh, 2 years on, I think a lot of this is to stay in the economy. And now you have, newer workforce, graduates as they come in the system, they are habituated to, a new paradigm shift in working, which was not the case pre-COVID. So changes, opportunities, and I see all the more reforms, more and more radical technology uplifts coming through, be it AI, machine learning, a whole host of deep tech initiatives, all to stay. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Before Ankit answers, I just wanted to know if you'll have any questions, keep it ready. We'll just take about 2-3 minutes of Q&A from the audience. Okay, Ankit, go ahead.
So nothing much to add. From a government and early stage startup perspective, what helped during this pandemic was we became a flat structure. Government also kind of opened up. Earlier there were silos. What is happening in Bangalore or Karnataka will not be, the people based in North may not be able to, unless they travel here and do that. What happened is, like, now a startup based anywhere could now take advantage of any other policies, programs, competitions, hackathons, a lot of the things that government did, and that opened up. We also got a lot of our international partners coming in and able to listen to these startups earlier. That would kind of create them to go there, or specialized events to come together and form. Virtually this led happen, and government also kind of opened up to this idea that now this can happen virtually and faster. And so that's one change that we saw, and it's still happening now. There are a lot of virtual incubation platform support, mentors from north to the south, south to north, west, east, boundaries got blurred, and all that has kind of played a very, very effective role during the pandemic.
Thank you, Ankit. I think, like you're saying, the barriers were broken, and I think we are more open to doing anything now. There are no boundaries. So, thank you so much. Any questions from the audience before we close? Yes, please.
Thank you, and thank you for highlighting this IPR as well as the simplification. So one problem, I'm from IPR, I'm an IPR attorney. So one problem we face is now a startup which is not integrating the IP strategy with the business strategy is definitely failing. So we have a very good IPR cell in IIT, or we have a very good IPR cell in IIM. But how we can simplify this particular process, even though the government is providing a lot of subsidies and a lot of benefits with respect to IPR, how we can make this particular facility which is accessible to a normal startup who don't have access to IIT or IIM? So what is your input on this?
When we are talking about intellectual property rights, there are three aspects here. If you're talking about what we can do, right, and what the government can do in the context of this panel discussion, we are aware that intellectual property is an extremely complex area and has different implications for different industries. Number one is consolidating it again in a simplified way in the vernacular for the masses to understand the importance of it and communicating it. That is something we as a collective, whether you're public, private, everybody needs to have that. And I'll give you an example. I lived in Ireland for 15 years. There is a website, and this is maybe 2002 or 2001 that this website was set up, called citizensinformation.ie, if I remember the website correctly. It had everything you needed to know about anything that the citizen needed to know, including business and IP rights, at a basic, almost Wikipedia level. Always there, with the relevant government links and all available, right? If something like that is available for everybody, that is a good starting point. The second thing that we can do to democratize access and understanding of that is, from a civic perspective, is we need a national level registry of the different types of intellectual property. And the third, which is to me the most, one area where we have a responsibility, is creating an ecosystem of high risk capital for IP. We don't have that. In India, one of the big differences between the US, we keep talking about Palo Alto and the Valley in India. You ask, we had a discussion just before the panel, high risk capital for intellectual property, science-backed companies at a very early stage, pure research, applied research, commercialization, very little capital is available. Very few investors are there in that space. Even the government grants that are there are very narrow in their definitions. So we need to broaden that scope, make it more accessible for people. And the moment money comes, accountability will come, attention will come, communication will come. Where there is money, there is everything else. That's my answer to your question.
Yeah, money does solve a lot of problems, but, not 100%. So I think there's some framework also required to be boosted and built up. And, whilst these institutions are doing their bit, it's also, the government and a few of the legislations that need to be built up. When you look at intellectual property or a patent, there's the process part of it, there's the research part of it, and then there's the documentation of why the process is so different. And I think we are just coming up to terms, with it. So it'll take a bit of time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Just one more. That's it. No? We are okay. So time's up. Any last thoughts before we close? I always keep it open to the panel, because if there's something you have wanted to share but haven't had the opportunity, now is your time.
So quickly on the startup side, because I deal with only early stage startups, so I'll kind of, there are enough and more support that is available today. If you look at last 10 years, I've been in the ecosystem for 11 years now. I've seen one of the first incubators way back in 2011-12, and now with current ecosystem, 600 active incubators, 1,100 registered on Startup India portal. There's a MARC platform by Government of India, Mentors Connect, accelerators are 200 plus, investor funds that are coming up. So on a large scale, every now and then I hear early stage Cat 1 fund being SEBI registered coming out. There enough and more support available. In fact, we keep getting requests that give us a good eligible startup that we can invest and fund and take them forward. All we need is, find out a good value backed by technology that you can create at a scale. You have enough, 65% of Indian population as your TAM, as in consumption part. Make that as your plus point. And from day one, build for globe, but try it in India and then take it globe. So you have a huge TAM, overall TAM available with you. And enough support available in terms of funding, in terms of mentorship, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the softer aspects, in terms of IP and other policy support today for a young entrepreneur to scale. All his need is kind of that passion, resilience, jugaad, everything that Mr. Singh talked about to kind of take it to the next level. So that's last mine.
Okay.
And the will. No, I'm good.
Okay.
I think two messages, one to the startup community, one to the government. To the startup community, I echo what Ankit said, but with one small proviso: when you build, don't build thinking help will come, whether it's money, whether it is policy, whether it is regulation. Build in a way that you can build it. And if you build with that particular thought process and you have profit at mind from day one, other things will come. When you don't need money, money is always available. When you need money, it comes at a very high cost. So think from that perspective and build from that perspective. To government, I'll just summarize. I think increase accessibility, increase communication, and communicate in a way that people understand.
Simplify everything.
Simplify.
Yes. Thank you. That's a lovely message. And next time, I think we should get more people from the government to be here also and share, right? So thank you very much, first of all. And like so many have said from morning, in the world of startups, every challenge is an opportunity, and every choice that we make shapes our destiny. And I truly believe in that. And Mahatma Gandhi's words, right? You must be the change you want to see in the world. So embrace change, leverage government policies, and together let's continue to build a brighter, more prosperous future for startups in India. And we look up to people like you to become our mentors and our gurus in this aspect. So thank you again. And a huge round of applause, guys, for this panel.
Before we disperse, may I request Dr. E. Muthuraman and Kumar Saurabh to please step forward and felicitate each of our panelists. That was quite an informative and engaging discussion. I could see a lot of people really involved. So let's have one more round of applause for the learned panelists and our moderator, Ms. Kavita. Right after the felicitation, may I request our panelists and our panel moderator to please come together for a photograph with Dr. E. Muthuraman and with Mr. Kumar Saurabh. Can we have a photo, please? Group photo. I request all of you to please smile for this capturing moment and our audience to give a round of applause. Thank you very much to our panelists, to our moderator, to Dr. E. Muthuraman for stepping forward. Please, sir, have a seat as we continue with